well, I'm not spending a ton of time in the gym. I'm not spending a ton of time muscle building. Is creatine really necessary for me? This episode still is 100% for you.
Your cells have more energy, stores to go off of, and that's what builds muscle. Creatine doesn't build muscle, it helps you to build the muscle.
Creatine is not going to melt fat. It's not going to target any specific places of melting fat. It's not going to replace training. But if you would like to build your biggest fat burning organ, we're looking to build muscle, it can help you do that.
Your brain requires a lot of energy, and creatine helps manage cellular energy. So you decide.
And what that recommended dose is grams daily. Most people just need grams. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
Hi guys, I'm Rachel, coming to you on location, reporting the news.
On vacation?
No, my God, this is not a vacation. It's a workcation. So hey you guys, what's going on? What's happening? What's the hot stuff? What's the word?
Where are you, Rachel? In Massachusetts? How's the weather in Massachusetts? How's your mother?
Hey, how's your mother? The weather is doing its best up here. I'll tell you what, the minute you get up here, it's just like oh, it's a whole vibe. It's a whole culture. It's a whole look. It's I tell you,
Really
every
everywhere is
time,
though.
yeah.
It's just like you, and this isn't like a good thing or a bad thing. Like this, I'm saying this in like a very neutral way. Like every place just has their own like vibe and like look to it. And every time Palm Beach, Florida is like very flowery. It's floral. Like people are wearing floral things like all year round. You know what I mean? And then in Massachusetts, it's a different vibe. Like a lot of times you go for like, again, not meaning this in a rude way, like it's like a free people, more of a like homeless vibe. It's it's like sometimes like the grungier
Say
the
that
better.
without. Oh my God,
Is it a lie?
horrible.
Is it a lie though?
No,
It's not a lie. So it's
no.
really just
They
like
have a
it's very
harder
neutral.
life.
Yeah.
Life is harder here.
But it is very real.
That's
I've been on this segment of like watching this, this creator, this guy who is from, I think he's from Alabama. He's from somewhere like south, like in like southern south, you know what I mean? And he moved to Massachusetts, and he says like he started it out with like, I found myself a New England girl. I caught one. And he just goes through all of
catch.
these had to catch. And he's like, they will
yeah.
put you in your place of like, you thought you had it going together. And he's like, I realized I was just a barbarian with one bar stool. And like things like that. He was like, keep the
Just all
standards
together.
high because like what? Yeah. And then he talks about some of the nuances of like Southern sayings that don't translate to New England, because it happens on both ends. Like there are some Southern sayings that like don't translate to New England. There's New England sayings that don't translate to the South, and you're just kind of like whatever. And one of them had to do with like forgot to feed my ducks today or something. It's guys, help me out if you're from the South and you understand the saying that I'm talking about that he referenced. So he said this to someone in New.
What the hell does that mean?
With. And the guy went like this. I've been working here 8 years. I didn't know we had ducks. You're a weird guy. And he goes, and then I just had to sit there and go like, no, we don't have ducks. He tried to explain it, and the guy goes, he didn't want all of the explanation. He just goes, you're a weird guy, and turned around and left.
Hey, you're a weird guy.
It's
so
matter of fact, like it wasn't even meant as like, he goes, it was like a middle of like, I don't think he even meant it as an insult. I think he just meant it as like a factual statement.
There's a lot of things. What a beautifully diverse country we have, and I'm so thankful for all the diversity and how much of it I've gotten to see so far. It is wonderfully splendid, and
There
it's
is.
different up here. But it doesn't take long, it doesn't take long for me to just, you know, get right back to how's your mother and how's the weather. And you gotta pay Paul to pay Peter, whatever you say. The mother's up here. Oh my god,
Yeah.
I heard she's paying Paul to feed Peter, whatever they say. Oh god.
See,
Oh
that's what I'm
my
saying, like, it's
god.
one of the sayings that, like, translates among places, but we are gonna talk about some supplements today, and we're gonna do a couple segments on this, about some different supplements, what you should be taking, what you shouldn't be taking, what to prioritize, and just some of the hot ones that are out right now, and something that I want you guys to think about as we start to talk about some of the supplements and we start to talk about maximizing our supplementation. Um, One of the things that I need you to keep in mind before we go into anything about supplements is that supplementation is to supplement your diet, is to supplement something that you're already doing in your diet. It's not to replace, it's not instead of, it's not bigger priority than the food you're consuming, the water you're consuming. All of those are top notch. And then when we look to maximize, when we look to supplement beyond that, we're looking to maybe fill in some gaps. We're looking to so there's some gaps, so we want to put into those holes. We want to maximize some pieces, but none of the things that we talk about with supplementation will replace the diet on a daily basis and your water consumption, you little raisins.
Hey, you talking to me? No, you guys, of course, we always say, we're not going to address cutting the lawn while the house is on fire. We have to, prioritize the big things before we get down to the smaller things. But actually, today's episode is going to discuss a really hot supplement right now, which is creatine. And we want to talk to you about the amount of creatine ads I'm seeing in my perimenopausal old lady feed. I'll tell you what, I got creatine gummies. Hey lady, you're not even doing life unless you're on these creatine supplements. And it's become really hot for a totally different demographic than who creatine has previously been marketed towards. So, we want to tell you about the hype. We want to tell you about, what's real, what's not. And you will be able to leave this episode with a good idea of whether or not you should be adding a creatine supplement to your healthy and nutritious lifestyle. However, I would like to open with the fact that the recommended amount of creatine is actually difficult to get in your daily diet. So, I'm for supplementation when it comes to creatine, because I think I think what I read was in order to get the recommended daily dose of creatine, you'd need to eat like a pound of ground beef, for example. And most people are just not going to get a pound of ground beef throughout, a day. Um, so I actually really like creatine and some other supplements, vitamin D, for example, because just in some cases, we're just not going to get it enough from food. So let's talk about creatine.
So, guys, like posing the question to you, have you seen the uptick in creatine? Because I think like our audience is definitely the ones like tell us about it because creatine's been around for much longer than the hype that it's getting right now. And historically, you really thought of creatine as like the gym bros. It's going to make you puffy. It's going to make you feel puffy. It's just for people who are looking to bodybuild or build a substantial amount of muscle. And that's just not true. There has been a lot of light shined on women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and the amount of muscle mass that we're losing throughout those years and the amount of bone density on average that we are just losing beginning in your 30s. So the science is indisputed when it comes to bone density loss and the ramification for that and the way to gain some of your bone density back so that you aren't frail into your 40s, 50s, 60s is to maintain or gain some muscle mass. That's indisputable. It's not even there's no question on the science of like, I just wonder what we could do for our bones. It's muscle mass. So when it comes to the ability to maintain muscle, for a lot of people who are in those later stages where it becomes more difficult to gain or maintain muscle mass, then we look at some of the supplementation that help you with that. And creatine has deservedly worked its way into that conversation to help with the ability to maintain muscle mass, specifically in those age ranges. Now, I do wanna caution this one thing where, like, we were hit with, like, the "It's just for the gym bros, it'll make you puffy, blah, 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 blah," and then we put it in a pink bag and we're like, "Ladies in your 30s and 40s." Like, I just want to caution around that because it's all the same stuff, and we don't need to rebrand it in a way, and you don't need to be paying more in a way of, like, "This is creatine for her."
It's the same one. It's the same one we always been taking. One thing I love about creatine is that it is one of the most heavily studied supplements. So just because it's kind of having a rebrand moment where it's back, creatine's back in everyone's sort of.
Where did she go?
She didn't go nowhere. She been here. She been here, but the problem was that we were sort of marketing this towards the bodybuilder crowd only, power lifters, football players, primarily men were the ones who were hip to creatine, especially young men. And it's just, it's an interesting juxtaposition because the thought that young men would need the most help building and maintaining muscle is kind of backwards land. Because that is when the
Primed
body
to
has the
build
most.
muscle.
Yeah. So, why are we now seeing every other ad in my 40-year-old lady feed for creatine gummies, when it has previously really not been marketed to me? Is that the science on this suppy hasn't changed. Nothing has changed. It's been around for decades. It's heavily studied, and it's really, really effective and really, really safe. So that is why I'm thrilled to see it re-entering a conversation for a more general crowd of like, hey, yeah, does this help you build muscle? Yes, it does. It always has. It just hasn't been cool to build muscle for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s until now. So now it's cool, but nothing has changed in this conversation. So luckily, we have tons of studies on creatine to prove its effectiveness. And now we get to use it. But as Kelsey said, we're not going to pay more and we're not going to pink bag it and we're not going to make it into something it's not. It's a muscle building supplement and you should absolutely be maintaining and building muscle for at every age and at every gender.
So here's just to break down like who's really gotten a hold of this. And it's menopausal women or people who are speaking to menopausal women, which are, in the, physicians and just in the general wellness space that are speaking to people who are in perimenopause and menopausal women and suggesting that maybe creatine would be something that they would look at. Longevity experts absolutely have taken a hold of this, have transfer just, taking it from the young gym bros in the gym and looking at the ability to on from longevity, the ability to sustain not only muscle, but the other benefits, which we'll go into. Neurologists and dietitians, all of these experts have really gotten a hold of creatine and put it at least towards the forefront. It's in the top 5 of things that they're looking at as far as what can benefit us as not only as we age, but that we can benefit from, the general population can benefit from. There's been endless studies that have looked at, the impact on dementia with aging. So it's not just, and we're going to talk about this, but I just want you, when I said neurologist, I kind of branched over it, but it's not just looking at specifically your bone density, your muscle, whatever it is that you're doing in the gym, that creatine has worked its way into supplementation. It's a lot bigger than that. That's very important. Don't let me sidestep. That's very important, but it is a lot bigger than that of the impact that it can have. And I think that when we start to think about like, well, I'm not spending a ton of time in the gym. I'm not spending a ton of time muscle building. Is creatine really necessary for me? We're going to answer that question in this podcast. So if you kind of feel like that's not what my focus is right now, maybe it should be. If that's not my focus is right now, this episode still is 100% for you.
So let's break down a little bit of what creatine is, because I think it is a misunderstood supplement. And it is misunderstood largely because of the audience that it has always been primarily pushed towards. Creatine is not in any way a steroid. Okay. Just want to be very clear. It is not. It is not a stimulant. It is not a steroid. It is not a hormone. Creatine is not an artificial muscle builder in any way. It is a naturally occurring compound that you already have in your body. It is also found in things that you eat, primarily red meat and fish. So, what creatine actually does in your body, it again, nothing artificial about supplementing creatine. This is something that you're already naturally producing. But what creatine does and what its primary purpose in your body is that it helps you to rapidly regenerate your ATP. If you forgot from your ninth grade biology course, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. ATP is essentially the energy currency of your cells. So when your cells are requiring energy, they cash in ATP in order to do that. So people think that creatine helps build muscle, but it actually doesn't help you build muscle. It's not like how we've kind of thought of it like, oh, you get the creatine and it's like all of a sudden you're on steroids and you're like massive and you've got these big biceps. That's not actually what creatine does. What it actually does is it helps you perform work so that you can do more work. Your cells have more energy stores to go off of, and that's what builds muscle. Is the ability for your body to do more work. So creatine doesn't build muscle, it helps you to build the muscle.
I think that's some of the nuances as we get into any type of supplementation is, well, not every single one, because when we talk about stimulants, there's a whole bunch of other things that go into that. But when we really start to break down like what is actually building muscle, and when, even doing work in the muscle breakdown, that's not building it. When we're recovering is when we're actually building muscle. So if we are able to break down more muscle fibers and then recover appropriately, we're able to build more muscle. But what I love when you said about creatine and just how we think about it is that it's there to help you build the muscle. You don't start taking creatine and then regardless of the work that you're doing, you start to be like, "Oh, what's that, a trap? My traps are growing, my biceps are growing." Like, that's not gonna happen. um, I don't think I'm gonna take anything, but that's not gonna happen when you take creatine. Like, you're not just going to start just walking around seeing more muscles because you've been taking creatine for 3 months. That's not what's gonna happen, but if your goal is to build more muscle and you need a little friend to help you work through some of those reps, creatine would be a great friend to call upon.
So, you already know we make the best workout gear, but one of our best products, our highest rated product on our website, is actually our collagen. If you have not heard about Glow Up by CVG, you are missing out. There is almost 700 five-star reviews on this product because it is such an amazing supplement. Actually, looking at it today, there are only 2 one-stars that were meant to be 5 stars. They love the product, they hit the wrong amount of stars. This is one of our most popular products for a reason. It dissolves like no other collagen. It's type 1 and 3. You're gonna have healthier skin, better joint mobility. Everything about this collagen makes it easy to put into your daily routine. So if you haven't tried Glow Up, get on cvg.com and make sure to add it to cart today. It's our best product.
So women, again, are now in the creatine conversation because for the first time, building muscle is hot for women. It has taken on, finally, it's taken its proper place in the longevity conversation, in the aging conversation, in the independence conversation. We are now no longer primarily focused on being smaller and less visible and teensy tiny and burning all our calories. We are now taking up space with muscles so that we can live independently and freaking run and jump and play and all the shit that makes you human for longer. And imagine that women would also want to run and jump and play and
And live.
stay
And it's not just live
independent.
longer because, like, when we talk about, like, statistically who's living longer, but live longer independently. Although women have a tendency to live longer, they don't live as long independently, and they're more likely to have more years of of less independence or, needing assistance than men are. And we know the data behind that. We know the reason behind that and how much muscle plays a role in that, but when we start to think about some of those things, being Alzheimer's, being dementia, being, to be able to cognitively live long and independently, we're also having creatine in that conversation, and that's so important to just insert into the conversation because when we're thinking about longevity, I don't wanna live a we did this with our death date episode, but we don't want to just live a whole bunch of years without, the independence that we are looking for from our bodies and from just our day-to-day activity, and when it comes to things like the ability to get yourself out of bed, the ability to get yourself off the toilet, the ability to pick up your kids and your grandkids, this is all playing into what we want for our later years and how good we wanna feel into those later years. So when we think about, like, how can we maximize that, that's where I really feel like supplementation really kinda gets a little bit more shine because we haven't dabbled in some of this yet, and we really need to.
And we really need to. That's a great point. And I just want to also highlight that when we talk about longevity and when we talk about independence, I'm not just talking about an 80-year-old. Sometimes we have a hard time looking ahead and planning for, very far when there's the right now. And I just want to mention that independence in your body is happening right now. There
Oh,
should
yeah.
be a goal of no limitations to what you can do with your body on any given day. If it's a Wednesday and you feel like going for a run on the track, that's an independence ability. If you want to go play tennis, if you want to ride a roller coaster, if you want to do anything that makes you feel human, you should have no limitations of, well, my knees and oh, my back and that's really not something that my body can do right now independently. So these things are happening now.
Like, the exciting thing about aging is, like, you have different seasons of your life and new opportunities to try different things, and you never want to limit your ability to try those different things, like, to pick up tennis or pickleball or padel or, golf or, like, any of the other things when you get into a season that might have a little bit more time freed up. Maybe you're not so career focused, maybe you don't have little kids that are, they're in their own sports now and you're like, "Well, I wanna try some I have a little bit more time now, I wanna try something else." And we don't want to have so many limitations on our body, what we can and can't do. And I think historically, on both sexes, we've had this idea that once you reach a certain I can't play basketball anymore because, my knees, I'm 40. And it's like, well, is that what you wanna do? Do you want to give it up now at 40 when your 60-year-old self is gonna be looking back and being like, Are you insane?" Like, think about that. The things that we're giving up right now, or that we have potential to give up, are not necessary. They really aren't. But the way that we do that, but the way that we hold on to them, or the way that we give ourselves the ability to try new things into every different season for it to be an exciting one and not a step back into the number of things that I no longer can do, it really opens up the doors for the rest of our lives for the things that we can do.
So true. That's so true. So women being included in this conversation with creatine now, I just want to highlight the fact that, women weren't ignoring creatine. Nobody was talking to women about creatine because, you know, creatine wasn't being hidden from us, but strength was. So, ooh, boom. Now it's not. I want to talk a little bit about menopause for a second because there are some exciting connections between creatine and menopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal women that I think is why for example, I'm getting all this in my feed of all of these creatine explosion as the science is finally dedicating research towards perimenopausal and menopausal women, which previously, again, we just weren't getting research in this area. It was just like sucks to
We
suck.
weren't talking
Heard
about this area. Like, even women to each other, it was like this big, like, hush, hush, like,
mhm.
are you there
Yeah,
yet? And you would really say it in, like, even just, like, a back door, or, like, and that's why so many women have suffered in silence with all of the, symptoms that can come along with menopause, because no one was talking about it. We weren't talking about it to each
it's true.
other. We weren't talking about it from a scientific standpoint. We weren't talking about it in our doctor's office. Women weren't historically believed with the number of symptoms that they were presenting. And it was just kind of like, well, that's kind of a crazy time. Like, just, do that in your room. Quietly. Like, and that's over, guys. And I just want to say, like, this the connection with creatine and menopause and how we're kind of like using our information and spreading it. This has opened up the door to speak to each other about not needing to suffer. Like, there's no prize at the end for the amount that you suffered once you hit menopause. There's no prize for you. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So if you wanna suffer through all those years without looking into how you can, decrease these symptoms or just feel better or maximize this moment in your transition, like, there's no award So instead, we could open up the conversation with each other and say, like, all of these things are real. This is what I'm experiencing. And guess what? We have some science, we have some new supplements, we have some, discussion around how those supplements interact with our hormone imbalances that are happening right now because they're just changing, right? And how can we look at we have the science now. We don't have to just like suffer and be like, these are my hot flashes. I just stay over here. Don't worry about me over here. Like, no, like, let's get a handle of this.
We've been worried about you, girl. And here's what we know. When women are experiencing any part of the menopausal journey, peri, post, all of it, we now know that they're having a significant decline in estrogen, right? But what we didn't previously understand was how far reaching that was, how important and all of the roles that estrogen played in a woman's body, and what a plummet in that hormone did to all of the systems and organs and functions that were previously functioning on one level and are no longer functioning on that level anymore. Um, when estrogen declines, what we now know is that we have a significant amount of strength decline that goes along with it, right? This is a a challenge for women when it comes to building muscle during this time period. It is a challenge when it comes to recovering because a decline in estrogen presents a lot of recovery challenges that were not previously there. And of course, that there is a certain amount of muscle wasting that happens with a decline in estrogen. So, what we're looking at with creatine is so exciting because creatine supporting your resistance training. So I say, like, meet a woman. She says, like, I think I'm in perimenopause. I say, like, number one, are you resistance training? Okay. Yes. But is that significantly harder and more challenging with a decline in estrogen? Yes, it is. We now know this. So supporting your resistance training with a supplement like creatine becomes so much more important than a woman who is functioning on a full deck of estrogen. What is that like, ladies? I don't know. I don't have any young friends
Um, well, I'm still considering
or
myself
really
young,
any
so
friends. Oh, cool. You're not my friend.
So here's the thing that I just want to like highlight and normalize there for a second. When we talk about the decline in estrogen, we're talking about muscle retention struggling, we're talking about strength, we're talking about like strength declining and recovery decreasing. So when you're not recovering as fast and you're challenged to recover, you don't have as much energy the next day. You're also seeing your muscles deteriorate, your energy then also goes down. So I just want to highlight for just 1 second that when you talk about like there's a couple things that happen with a decrease in estrogen and it's muscle loss, strength decline, recovery challenges. You think like, "Oh, that sucks," but like that's not that bad. All of those things when they go into the next one have this ripple effect. And this is what we know when we start to talk about the body in a vacuum and we start to talk about hormones in a vacuum and just, all of these things that shouldn't be in a vacuum because when you see muscle deterioration, when you see your recovery not be as well, you're not sleeping as well, you're not recovering, you're more tired in the gym, you're getting less reps in the gym, you're not going to the gym because you're not recovered, you're really sore and you're not getting as much out of the gym then when you go. So it's just this kind of like step ladder of things that happen from a singular event, seemingly, of just having estrogen decline. And then all of those things happening, then you see your progesterone drop as well. So, the because then your muscles dropping, you know what I mean? We're not getting as much out of the gym. We're not getting as much We're not having our endorphins released. We're not getting what we used to get out of the gym. Even if fighting through all that, you still get the most amount of time there that you were before you fought there. You're not getting what you used to be getting out of it. So when we start to insert something like creatine and we start to say like, well, is this the end all be all? No, but it's giving you a more even playing field of all the battles that you had to get to recover, to get to the gym, to get reps in. You get a little bit I'm not saying you're back on an even playing field because you're still experiencing some hormonal changes that are going to just be there. But if we can get ourselves in more of just a little bit more of an even playing field rather than starting the race 2 miles behind, we can start just maybe like 1 mile behind.
I do want to hit on the brain health connection now because not only has creatine come into the menopausal conversation, but it's also come into the cognitive health conversation. And this is extremely important because although the research is a little young, it's very, very exciting. So, a lot of people, you think creatine, you think muscles, but what we discussed before is that creatine is not a steroid. It's not an actual it's not a false muscle builder, right? What it actually is an energy producer. So, many people do not know this, but actually the brain is one of the highest energy demanding organs in your entire body. It needs the mostest.
Of course it does, though. Of course it's doing everything. It's literally telling your lungs, "You need to breathe. You need to pump blood." Oh, did you remember his backpack? Like, it's literally doing from, like, top to bottom the most important things. It deserves your energy. That's what I want you to think about when you're in a calorie deficit. Am I feeding my brain? Are you feeling foggy?
I'm looking at you, girl. So if the purpose of creatine is to help rapidly regenerate that ATP, and the ATP is the energy that our brain needs to function. Hey, girl. Hey, girl, you get where I'm going with this? Obviously, the brain is using a tremendous amount of energy, and the more that we can fuel our cells with ATP to produce more energy, seemingly there could be some cognitive benefits that could go along with that. So, what we are now looking at with creatine and the most recent investigations with regards to cognition is that we are seeing some very notable and very exciting benefits when people are supplementing creatine. They are experiencing less mental fatigue. Sleep deprivation resilience is a big one that is being studied in this area right now because of how big of a if you haven't listened to our sleep episode, such a good episode, such a good episode. But basically what's happening is when you're going to sleep, you are cleaning out all of the toxins of the day inside your brain that when they're not cleared out, are leading to some of those symptoms like brain fog and less ability to be sharp, and your cognition goes down. So, just in general, what we're seeing is neurological health improvements across the board with supplementation of creatine. And I don't want to oversell this because the science is still young, and I don't want to, put this as the be all end all. Oh my gosh, creatine solves dementia. But the studies are in the works and they're very, very promising. And here's one thing that we know for sure: your brain requires a lot of energy, and creatine helps manage cellular energy. So you decide. There's no negatives to having your cells turn over more energy.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that the from a neurological standpoint, yes, the science is still pretty young, but looking at the population studied, when we're looking at, size and the ability to study some of these populations, there's a lot of challenges with, cognition, brain fog, things like that. But when it comes to like, more significant cognitive decline, when we're talking about dementia and we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about some of these really steep cognitive declines that we're looking to measure. Not we, because I'm not a scientist, but that the scientists are looking to measure, and we then can use that information. But it is really strong, honestly. And when we're looking at what are some of the downsides to creatine, I do want to mention a couple things, and just from personal experiences, or just something that I think that you should be aware of, and what creatine does not do. Creatine is not going to melt fat. It's not going to target any specific places of melting fat. There's no supplement on earth, or even your body, that's going to do that. It's not going to replace training. It's not going to dramatically transform your physique or your body composition. So when you're thinking about like, well, I'm taking creatine because I'm recomping. I don't know what people say nowadays, but I'm looking to, do my body composition in a different way. It's not going to do this. But when you are doing some of those things, it could help you with your training, and it could help you with building muscle if you are looking to increase your your training, and you're looking to have something to help you do that. Yes, it will. Is it going to melt fat away? No, but your biggest fat burning organ is, come on, people, it's muscle. So when we look at some of those things, what it's not going to do, it's not going to do any of those things. But if you would like to build your biggest fat burning organ, we're looking to build muscle, it can help you do that. So when we're looking at those in two different places, I would love to just say that it's not going to make you puffy. This has been one of the biggest misconceptions. Um, People can hear that creatine causes water retention, and they just imagine bloat, swollen face, feeling heavier. But what creatine is actually doing is pulling water into your muscle cells. So I do, from a personal experience for this, I would say you need to make sure that you are better hydrated when you are taking creatine. But I think that every person just needs to drink more water in general. So that's probably your just overall, I'll call you a raisin 5 times throughout this podcast. But we need to make sure that we are hydrating appropriately. We're going to take a quick break to get you a whole bunch of friends.
Do you like Friends?
We have about 80,000 amazing women friends, more than that, in one space that can't wait to cheer you on in your fitness journey.
Whether it's lifting you up, getting you motivated to get to the gym, complimenting your outfit, we have gathered 80,000 of the best women on the planet and put them all in one place for your friendship pleasure.
Honestly, I would just like pull out some of the amazing quotes from the group, because like you would think groups like this, you're like, I don't know. And I'm telling you, once you enter in the door, the virtual door, because you can do this anywhere, that you will find the most supportive community you have ever known. And it's called Stronger Together by CVG. You can find us on a Facebook group. It's a closed group, women only, and you got to get in there.
Get in there. It's so inspiring. Join us today. Yeah, so I think that this is a very old myth with regards to the puff. Creatine's not going to make you puffy. It is pulling water into your cells, but it's not like around your face and stuff. It's just making sure that your
That's what
muscle
people
cells,
picture.
yeah,
They
it's
picture
not
like,
in
well,
your
I'm puffy,
belly.
like, poop.
Right.
Like,
It's
what?
just it's making your muscle cells more hydrated, which is aiding their function. It's not making your face or your belly or none of that is true. Um, the other thing that people sort of have a misconception on is that when they go on a supplement like creatine and they are kind of like on a health and fitness journey, They may be weighing themselves to gauge progress on the scale. And sometimes when people go on creatine and they are doing these constant weigh-ins, they see that the scale might go up 1 or 2 pounds and blame the creatine. It's the creatine. First of all, creatine doesn't even have any calories, you guys. So that's not it. But some people are going to gain like 1 to 3 pounds in the first week of starting creatine. And why is that? Is because you're storing more water in your muscle tissue. Water weighs something. If you haven't listened to our Fuck the Scale episode, we when we step on a scale, we aren't just weighing fat tissue. We're weighing every single thing in your body. So being more hydrated and weighing 2 more pounds is a win. That's not like oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. Immediately cut out the creatine. So, bruh, bruh, it's not fat.
I could not hate, and, like, as we've progressed in the podcast, I think, like, I've just become a bit more candid of, like, the things that I have, like, a strong distaste or hatred for, and I could not hate more measuring progress, health and fitness progress on a scale more. There's nothing that I really hate more about, like, the health and fitness industry is, like, measuring on a scale, because if the scale we equate, if the scale goes up, there's more body fat on me. And we just like from a holistic standpoint of like, does that even make any sense? And the answer is no. And we can show you so many different examples of this with like, a 150-pound woman and 100, the same exact woman at 150 pounds, but at, a different body composition. And just like, does she have more body fat percentage? Does she have a higher body fat percentage? And it's just like, no, obviously not. So when we see like, well, the scale went up 1 to 3 pounds, like 1 to 3 pounds. Are we serious right now? You know what could happen with 1 to 3 pounds? Do you know what could happen? Like, get off the scale. It's not measuring your progress. And when we think about what's actually happening within your body, and we can look at, I talked about the biggest fat burning organ that you have. And then we think about, okay, so we're giving more water and hydration to that one, right? So, like, there's lots of muscles, but I'm gonna just say that one. Um, we're helping build more sustainable muscle, and that looks a little bit heavier when the hydration is there. When then we're going to body fat. It's like, no, that guy, that one is helping you burn, is increasing your metabolic rate. It's, at rest. This is only going to help decrease your overall body fat percentage and increase your metabolic rate, how you're metabolizing food, how you're using it for energy. It's only going to help you feel better. But it weighs a little bit more when we're really hydrating to build it up. There couldn't be anything more like damaging from a psychological standpoint of what's actually going to help you reach your goals.
Well, I mean, you never hear anybody say like, "Oh, no, thank you to the water. I'm trying to lose weight right now. No,
No.
thank you. I'm not drinking right now because I'm trying to get ready for. I got an event
A
coming up,
fight?
so
Do you
yeah."
have a fight? Because like, because they do that before you go into a fight. That's what, you know what I mean? Like, you are, like, super dehydrated and because that's where it, like, really matters, I guess, but then they just, like, super hydrate right after. It's like, if you're not going into a fight, don't worry about it. Um Let's talk about, like, creatine damages your kidneys, because this has been a pretty big myth, that has kind of withstood the test of time and turned a lot of people off to trying creatine because they know they have had difficulty sometimes with their kidneys, or they are easily susceptible to kidney stones or issues. And I think people have a really hard time getting past this one because they say like, "Well, I can't. What am I going to do?"
So I actually, in my 20s, thought I believed this myth as well. I I was in a space where a lot of people were taking creatine, and I said, "No, thank you. I value my kidneys." Um, so this is an old one. It's, not true. I am very happy now to know better, because I was missing out on an incredible supplement due to a silly misconception. And I want to tell people where this kind of came from because I think it's an important, it didn't just make up out of thin air. When you take creatine, there is a blood marker sometimes that increases that sounds like creatine. And so doctors will sometimes use this blood marker as one indicator of your kidney function. So when people saw that they were supplementing creatine and they had an increase in this marker, they assumed that that meant kidney damage. But that's never been true. This blood marker naturally rises when more creatine is available, but it does not automatically equate to kidney damage. So it's just one marker out of many that we use to determine how well your kidneys are functioning. But of course, I do want to caveat with no one should ever be taking any kind of supplements without first consulting their doctor. And anyone who has had previous issues with their kidneys is definitely going to want to talk before we put in any supplements at all. And creatine is just one of them. But I just want to assure you, this is one of the most extensively studied supplements in all of sports nutrition. Creatine's older than old. It is like the founding father when you talk about supplementation. This is so heavily researched. And research has repeatedly found no evidence of kidney damage from recommended doses of creatine in otherwise healthy people. So just understand that, if anybody says that to you, oh, better watch out with that, that if you're taking that creatine on your kidneys, it's well meaning, of course, but there's no link whatsoever to kidney damage and the normal regular dose of creatine that's recommended for a otherwise healthy person. So you don't have to worry about that.
And what that recommended dose is.
Good one, good
It's
one.
35 grams daily, over time. I know there's a lot of people who have different feelings about like, a significant increase in your creatine. Most people just need 35 grams.
Yes. Another thing that people this is from gym culture that people have a myth on is that they need to front load their creatine, like they need to have a loading phase. And listen, yes, Arnold's back in the day for the pump, might have recommended a loading phase, but for the majority of people, you do not need to front load like any supplement, really, truly. The best way to supplement is to be consistent. It's not to start, oh my God, I'm getting 20 grams for the first 5 days. Then I switch to maintenance. Then I do this. And we're just like way overcomplicating it. You just need 3 to 5 grams daily. And you should take it at whatever time of day you will take it at, whatever time of day you'll remember. Right? And you don't need this complicated math equation of front loading in the first week and loading phases and offloading phases and breaks. And it's all crazy. 3 to 5 grams a day will saturate you over time and give you all of the same benefits. If you want to front load it because you're extra, I don't blame you. I'm extra too, babe. But it's not necessary.
Absolutely. I don't like any honestly, like, if you want to, do it differently, I don't like that. I don't like a significant increase in anything kind of drastic like that. I would rather see you do, 35 grams over a longer period of time rather than move to 20 grams 5 to 7 days. It just like it's unnecessary, and I don't like heavy front loading with something like that you haven't tried.
Yeah,
When
because
it
you
comes
could get like a tummy issue or something, like a
Yes,
silly thing that would turn you off to a great supplement just because like you way overdid it in the beginning and
you overdid
your belly was like, "Oh my god, what the hell?"
it. And then it comes to choosing the type of creatine, because I know a lot of you guys, like, leaving this episode, you're like, "Alright, I get it. I can add some of this in." And we don't need to overcomplicate any of these steps into adding this in. What I would like to caution you on is when you're choosing some type of creatine supplement, just be, like, careful with the amount of also, like, added sugar that you're going into with some of these supplements, because it can just be kind of a sneaky way that adds in, like, a ton of added additives, whatever it may be, sugar, like, things that you don't necessarily need, and we'll talk about collagen in the future because that happens with collagen as well, but, when you're choosing a creatine, monohydrate is what you need to be looking for. You don't need to overcomplicate something like that, and beware that when you're looking at something like the gummies or any of these other ways that are marketed towards, because marketing is tricky, a heavy amount of creatine, just look at what else you're putting in your body.
Yeah, you just need a plain creatine monohydrate. That's it. One ingredient. You don't need it in gummy form. You don't need it
Don't
in
get weird.
HCl. Like, don't get weird. You don't need buffered creatine. Like, these marketing people are too crazy. And again, 3 to 5 grams daily. Don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to cycle it. You don't need to take weekends off. It shouldn't be like, oh, I only take this on workout days. Nope. It's just a part of your daily grind of like, I take my multivitamin or if you will, and I take my 3 to 5 grams of creatine. Um, and the other thing that I want to mention is, of course, this is going to work with consistency, not necessarily, all of the other ways that we can maximize something. Consistency is king. Just like in your workouts, just like, and again, we said, like, you're not gonna take creatine, lay on the couch, and then wake up and be like, "Oh my god, I'm
I
so
wish.
fit." Like, this is
I
going
wake up
along
like,
with your
"Arnold,
workouts, right? It's not a steroid.
I took
Um,
creatine yesterday."
do you notice a difference? Which was beach. So, and the other thing is, I want you to drink water like a normal human being, okay? Because I think that another myth that goes along with creatine is although you do need to be hydrated, it is important to not be a raisin. You also do not need to be walking around with gallons of water. Oh, I'm on creatine. I gotta drink this one, then I gotta drink this one. It's like, I know because it's that
I
gym bro
love it.
culture. That's why, because it previously came along with the
And
gym
then I have to
bros.
cut off my sleeves.
Just drink normal. You don't need extra electrolytes. You don't need a gallon a day. None of this. Just drink your regular amount of hydrating water. Don't be a raisin, but like,
But it
don't.
rewards hydration.
It
So
does.
if you're going like as does your skin, as does your metabolism. So to be honest with you, your body rewards hydration in every way. So if this is going to be the thing that increases your water intake, whatever. But it don't
Works
think
for
of it in a
me.
way of like if it works for me. Like if you're like, no, I have to have my gallons, like don't stress over it. But your body is always going to reward hydration, and creatine is not going to be any different than that. You recover faster, your metabolic rate is better, your skin is more hydrated, your nails look better, your hair looks better. Like everything is functioning better when you're well hydrated. So like if creatine is the way that helps you do that, like, cool.
Cool.
I'm here for it.
I'm good. I'm good with that. As far as brands, I don't care. I don't care as long as it's a creatine monohydrate and it has some type of third party testing. I like NSF certified. That's what I look for in supplements, but like it's totally up to you. I know Thorne is a very respected, clean, good reputation. I personally take Mind Body Greens, creatine. No, I have no affiliation. I just like it. But again, you don't need to spend a ton of money. It doesn't need to be laced with a whole bunch of other amazing, "Oh, this is the be all end all." It's just gonna be, a reputable company and a single ingredient. That's all we're really looking for.
Excellent. So, if you enjoyed this episode, tell us in the comments, but also tell us some of the other supplements you'd like to break down. Is your algorithm hitting you with some of these other supplements that they say like you have got to take? And then ask us like, "Hey guys, can you myth bust this, or is this something that I really need to have in our diet?" Our end all be all for creatine is it is an excellent addition to most people's diet from a supplementation standpoint. And just, because we can't take all of the things from a priority standpoint, should it be, in the top 5? I think yes. For creatine is a yes for me, but there are many supplements that I would be like, no, and we don't need to prioritize and we don't need to be wasting our money on these things. For me, creatine is yes. So tell us in the comments if you have some ones that you're like, should I be prioritizing this? Where does this fall on the scale? And I want you guys to help break this down for me.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And, if you're wondering about, timing, as far as, the aging population, like as I guess we're all part of that. But would I prioritize creatine in my 20s? Maybe not. In my 40s? Absolutely. So just thinking about it in the overall scheme of things when certain supplements become appropriate for you. If you are a woman and you are resistance training already and you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, hard yes to creatine. Hard yes for me. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Again, as Kelsey said, let us know if you want other supplements broken down. We're happy to do it. Myth busting all over the place. And we love you guys. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.